Please subscribe. It helps a lot.
The field lights hummed over Aiden's head and painted the turf in a harsh white. Sweat cooled on his stomach where the crop jersey rode high. The rest of the team cleared out after sprints. He lingered, pulling air into his lungs in steady counts. Sirens drifted across Washington from every direction. That sound always floated through practice, so nobody bothered with it. He towed a scuffed ball, then sent it into the dark end zone. The locker room door stood half open. A radio inside crackled with a clipped voice, then broke into static. He stepped into the hallway and called for the coach. No answer. Fluorescent lights flickered. Water dripped somewhere. He moved past rows of dented lockers, breathing through a wave of chill. A thud echoed from the showers. He stopped and listened. Another thud. A slow scrape along tile. A prank? "I'm not in the mood," he said, voice low. Silence pressed back. The shower curtain stirred. Aiden reached for a stray metal bar lying near the bench, something left from a weight rack repair. The curtain pulled open as if tugged by a weak wind. A man stepped out, skin wounded, mouth torn, eyes like glass. He moved with a tight jerk in his shoulders and dragged one foot. Aiden froze, bar raised. "Sir?" The word came out thin. The man turned, teeth bared. He lurched forward. Aiden slammed the bar into his arm. Bones cracked. The man stumbled but kept coming. Aiden bolted down the hall, cleats skidding, shoulder clipping a locker. He shot through the exit and into the night air. Clouds covered most of the sky. Street lamps formed tired islands around the stadium. Across the road, a Starbucks glowed warm, the only storefront still lit. Aiden sprinted for it, heart pounding hard enough to hurt. Shapes moved in the parking lot. He dodged a figure with torn sleeves, then another crawling on knees. He reached the door, hammered his fist on the glass. A boy inside ran to unlock it. Brown hair, freckles, slim shoulders, eyes deep and focused. He opened the door and Aiden slid through. The boy locked it again and dropped the latch with shaking fingers. "Thank you," Aiden said, bending over to breathe. "You're safe for now," the boy said. "Name's Noah." Aiden looked up. Noah studied him with steady attention, not judging the bare skin or the ripped pants or the grass stains along his knees. Something eased in Aiden's chest. A tall man stepped from behind the counter. Broad build, calm stance. He wore a dark jacket with the sleeves rolled to the forearms. "Matthew," he said. "We're keeping the lights low." Helps a little. Two others waited near the pastry case. A lanky guy in jeans and a soft tee waved with a crooked grin. "Connor. Hi. Oh my God, are you from the team over there? You look like an athlete calendar in a good way." He attempted a wink, which failed, then laughed at himself. The last guy stood stiff in a navy blue suit. No tie. Shirt open at the collar. He scrolled on a cracked phone even while he spoke. "Joshua. Honest question. Does anyone know what is going on, or are we doing a group panic?" Outside, bodies pressed against the glass. Fingers tapped, palms smeared streaks over the window. Some faces looked half gone. Some looked normal until the jaw swung open too wide. Aiden gripped the metal bar tighter. "They were in the locker room," he said. "One came at me like an animal." "City started warning people after sunset," Matthew said. "Phones fell off the grid after an hour. We pulled in whoever ran past. Doors lock. We move when we can. Power still works," Joshua said, waving at the ceiling. "So the whole end time speech seems premature." Connor peered through the window. "They're hungry and not picky." "I vote we barricade with tables." Noah touched Aiden's arm, a gentle contact. "You're shaking," he said. "Sit for a second." Aiden nodded and sank onto a stool. He stared at his hands. They wouldn't stop. He pressed his palms together until the tremor eased. Noah sat next to him. They both watched the window. The street outside showed Union Station lights in the distance, pale and thin. A helicopter thumped far off, then faded. Sirens wound through the city like a frayed rope that refused to break. Matthew moved with intent, not hurry. He slid metal trash bins against the door and wedged two heavy chairs under the handles. He kept his voice level and low. "We wait 5 minutes, then we move. I know a route through side streets to the mall. Word is evac points open up there. If we stay, this window will give." Joshua scoffed. "You know a route? You a tour guide now?" Matthew ignored him. We leave in a line, eyes open. If someone goes down, we still move. We stay alive as a group, not as heroes. Connor swallowed. So, no grabbing my favorite latte machine on the way out. Correct, Matthew said. Aiden stood again. The cool air in the shop made his wet jersey cling to his chest. He looked at Noah. The freckles across Noah's nose looked like stars scattered with no pattern. Aiden wanted to say something brave. He said the true thing instead. I thought I would die in there. Noah's mouth trembled, almost a smile. Me too. I ran from the metro up the sidewalk and saw this light. I didn't think anyone would open the door. I saw you, Aiden said. The words landed with more weight than he expected. Connor bounced on his heels, eyes flicking between them. I ship it. Sorry. Stress makes me talk. Ignore me. Joshua rolled his eyes. Wonderful. Romance while corpses are networking. Aiden stepped away to the window and scanned the lot. The swarm grew thicker. A woman in a ripped coat slapped the glass, then rested her forehead against it as if tired. Another body crawled on elbows, feet dragging limp. Teeth clicked against the door. Small popping sounds, nervous and rapid. Noah joined him. He stood close enough for warmth. We'll get out, Noah said, voice quiet. How do you know? I don't, Noah said. I want to. Matthew checked the back door. Alley looks clear, he said. 2 blocks west, there's a fence. We go over it, then through a loading dock. Fewer streets to cross. Connor pulled a key ring from behind the counter. I found these when the barista ran out. Might fit the back lock better than the pin. Matthew took the ring, tested a key, and nodded. Good, he said. We're moving. Grab something you can swing. Nothing heavy enough to slow you down. Aiden lifted the metal bar. Noah picked up a broken broom handle. Connor grabbed a tray. Joshua surveyed the room, sighed, and took a length of piping from a shelf near the sink. The lights dipped. Every head turned upward. The hum faded, returned, then steadied. Outside, the crowd shifted as if stirred by some impulse none of them could see. A low moan rolled across the asphalt. Fingers traced slow arcs over the glass. Matthew spoke in a tone that invited no argument. Now. He unlocked the back door and cracked it open. Night air swept into the shop. It smelled of damp concrete and smoke. Aiden felt it on his face like a wake-up slap. Noah's shoulder touched his for a heartbeat. That contact spoke more than any speech. They filed into the alley. Matthew first, then Joshua, then Connor, then Noah, then Aiden, keeping rear guard without needing to say so. The door clicked shut behind them. The alley stretched narrow and dark with trash bags split open along one wall. No movement yet. A siren rose again from somewhere east. They moved fast, feet light, breaths measured. Matthew lifted a hand and pointed left. The group turned and followed. Aiden looked back once. Through a gap, he saw the Starbucks windows flex under fresh weight. A sound like knuckles on a door rattled the alley. He fixed his eyes forward. Noah's back. Connor's swinging tray. Joshua's stiff shoulders. Matthew's calm shape guiding them toward the street. He breathed, counted to 5, breathed again. They stayed together. They moved because staying still meant the glass would fail. They stepped into the city night knowing nothing waited for them except more movement, more choice, more fear, and a small line of hope that stretched from one warm hand to another. The alley ended in cracked pavement and silence that did not last. A siren wailed somewhere east, followed by shouts that rose then broke apart. Aiden moved with the others along the narrow stretch, eyes on Matthew's steady back. Noah stayed close beside him. Their breath came in quiet bursts that steamed the night air. Trash cans toppled under Connor's hurried steps. Joshua whispered complaints behind them, each word sharp. They reached a fence where vines grew through metal links. Matthew scaled it first, boots catching on the wire. He reached down to pull Noah up, then Aiden. Connor climbed last, muttering about his jeans. The air smelled like wet cement and faint smoke. When Aiden dropped to the other side, he felt the city pulse with low sounds. Nothing in it sounded alive. Ahead, a street opened into broken light. The Starbucks stood 2 blocks behind, faintly glowing. A crash came from that direction. Aiden did not turn. He could feel what it meant. They crossed the street fast, passing shuttered windows and parked cars. A newspaper flapped under Aiden's shoe. Headline text caught the light. Hospitals overrun. He stopped for half a second before Noah tugged his arm. Keep moving, Noah said. Matthew raised his hand to signal a stop near a delivery van parked half on the curb, its windshield smeared with brown streaks. He tested the door. It opened, hinges creaking. Inside smelled of gasoline and rot. Aiden climbed in behind him looking for keys. Nothing on the seat. The glove box hung open and empty. Joshua groaned. Perfect, Joshua said. Let's keep breaking into useless cars until dawn. Maybe one will have snacks. Quiet, Matthew said. Sound travels. Connor leaned against the van's side, rubbing his neck. You think this all started from the hospital thing last week? He asked. The fever they kept on the news? Matthew didn't answer. His eyes swept the dark stretch ahead. We moved to the mall, he said. Evac helicopters should still be running. Follow me. Joshua crossed his arms. You think they'll wait for 5 randoms with no clearance? You can stay here, Matthew said. Aiden watched the exchange. Joshua's jaw flexed, but he stayed silent. Noah shifted his weight beside Aiden, voice low. We'll make it if we don't stop. They moved again, staying in the shadows. The wind carried a faint sound, soft and uneven, like feet dragging. Aiden tightened his grip on the metal bar. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. They reached the edge of an intersection. Streetlights flickered. A single car sat in the middle of the road, door wide, music still playing from inside, low and warped. Aiden saw movement through the car's window. A head turned slowly toward them, eyes white, mouth open. Go, Matthew said. They broke into a run. The street tilted downhill toward the mall. Feet slapped asphalt. Groans echoed behind them, growing louder. Noah stumbled once, and Aiden grabbed his arm, steadying him. Noah looked at him, breath quick. Thanks. Keep close, Aiden said. Connor fell behind, pausing by a figure crawling on the ground near the curb. The woman reached toward him, voice hoarse. Please, she whispered. Help me. Her face stayed half hidden under her hair. Connor, Matthew called. She's still alive, Connor said, bending down. His hand touched her shoulder. She moved faster than air, her mouth latched to his neck. Aiden froze. Connor screamed once, then went silent. Matthew rushed forward, but Aiden pulled him back. The woman's body convulsed as she tore at Connor's throat. Noah pressed his face against Aiden's sleeve, trying not to look. Connor's body went still, eyes open. His fingers twitched once, then again, as if reaching. He turned, slow, deliberate, the sound of breath dragging through ruined flesh. Move, Matthew said. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes looked wet. They ran. Aiden turned once and saw Connor stand, staggering after them with that same broken rhythm as the others. When they reached an alley near a row of offices, they stopped. Aiden bent over, gasping. Noah's hands shook so much he dropped his broom handle. Joshua leaned against the wall, his suit streaked with dirt. He tried to help, Noah said, voice cracked. He didn't listen, Joshua said. Aiden turned on him. He cared. That's not weakness. It is now, Joshua said. Matthew stepped between them. Enough. He's gone. We keep moving or we join him. A silence grew between them, heavy and cold. Aiden pressed the metal bar to his chest until his heartbeat slowed. They waited until the street went still again. A siren faded. The wind brushed wrappers across the ground. Somewhere far away someone screamed and didn't stop. Noah crouched beside a drain, watching water trickle through it. His voice came out soft. He said he was from Virginia. He missed his mom. Aiden knelt beside him. He's not suffering now. Noah nodded, though his eyes stayed fixed on the street. I keep thinking she's waiting for him to call. Aiden reached out and touched his shoulder. The contact made Noah look up, tears reflecting the faint glow of the streetlight. We'll remember him, Aiden said. Matthew motioned them forward. No talking from now on. We move in pairs. Stay low. They followed him again, stepping through broken glass and puddles of water. Aiden and Noah stayed side by side. The air had grown colder. The sound of helicopters came and went in bursts. At the corner of a gas station, they paused to check their direction. Joshua muttered something under his breath about the odds of surviving until dawn. Aiden didn't answer. He kept thinking about Connor's voice, his half-laugh, his bad jokes. He wished he had said something kinder before they left the shop. The sky over the mall glowed faintly orange from the fires near downtown. The air carried the scent of burned fuel. Every streetlight flickered like a dying breath. Aiden lifted his head. The Capitol dome shimmered faint through the haze. "We can make it," he said. Noah nodded. "We have to." They stepped out from the cover of the station. The city stretched ahead of them, wide and empty, a maze of echoes and faint light. Behind them, the sound of dragging feet began again, closer this time. The air thickened with it. Matthew looked back once and signaled them forward. "Run!" And they ran. They entered the museum through a shattered door. The glass crunched beneath their shoes. Aiden followed Matthew through the wide atrium where shadows fell across marble floors. The air inside felt trapped, old, unmoving. A thin smell of dust and decay hung under the scent of smoke that drifted through cracks in the roof. "Stay close," Matthew said. His voice stayed low but steady. "We wait here until daylight, then move for the mall." Joshua muttered something about wasting time. Noah kept beside Aiden, clutching his broken broom handle. The building loomed over them, silent but restless, filled with faint echoes that belonged to no one. They stepped into the main hall. Statues of long-dead figures lined the walls. Their hollow eyes followed the group as they crossed the space. Aiden looked at the forms in glass cases, frozen in poses of history, and thought they seemed too human in the dim light. Connor's absence felt heavy in every breath. Aiden wanted to say something about it, but his throat closed. Noah's presence steadied him, though neither spoke for a long time. Matthew found a small office in the corner of the lobby. Inside, he set a small flashlight upright on a desk and spread out a half-burned map. The glow threw their faces into sharp shapes. "We're here," he said, pointing to the street north of the mall. "We go through the tunnel under the reflecting pool. If the exits are clear, we reach the Capitol." Joshua leaned against the wall, arms folded. "If the exits are clear," he repeated. "Big if." Matthew didn't look up. "We plan like they are. It keeps us alive." Aiden sat on the floor back against a filing cabinet. He could still feel Connor's scream in his ears. Noah sat next to him, pulling his knees close. The floor felt cold through their thin clothes. "Do you think he felt it?" Noah asked quietly. Aiden looked toward the dark hallway instead of answering. He didn't know if truth would comfort either of them. Lights flickered in the hall. The sound came again, faint but rhythmic, like feet dragging across tile. Matthew drew his pistol and motioned them still. The sound stopped after a few breaths, then moved away. Joshua exhaled through his nose. "We're sitting ducks." "Quiet," Matthew said. Aiden's hands trembled on the metal bar. He could see Noah's reflection in the window beside them. His face looked pale, lips tight. Yet when he noticed Aiden's stare, he tried to smile. "Why'd you stay out there?" Aiden whispered. "You could have gone home." "My home's gone," Noah said. His voice stayed even but soft. "Parents went out for supplies this morning. I saw the crowd near Union Station before I got trapped in the metro." He rubbed his thumb against his sleeve. "I don't think they made it." Aiden wanted to speak but stopped. Words didn't fit what sat between them. He leaned his shoulder against Noah's, a quiet act more than comfort. Noah didn't pull away. Matthew returned from the hall. "All clear for now," he said. "We rest 1 hour. Then we move." Joshua scoffed. "An hour of pretending we'll wake up in a world that works." Aiden looked at him. "Then sleep with your eyes open." The words came harsher than he meant. Joshua met his stare but didn't reply. He sat down apart from the group, watching the door. The flashlight hummed faintly. Dust drifted through the beam like falling ash. Aiden rested his head against the wall and closed his eyes. He didn't sleep, but his thoughts slowed. He saw flashes of the field earlier that night, the empty stands, the moment when the first corpse walked into the locker room. He remembered the way the man's eyes seemed to hold nothing, not hunger, not pain. Noah's breathing grew steady beside him. Aiden opened his eyes again and watched him in the dim light. His freckles caught faint glimmers, and Aiden felt a pull in his chest, quiet and strange. It reminded him that life still existed inside this ruin. The building groaned. A metallic sound came from above, followed by a soft thud somewhere deeper inside. Matthew stood, raising the gun. Aiden lifted the bar. Noah sat up fast, eyes wide. Something moved behind the glass exhibit across the room. A shape leaned against the case, pressing a hand against it. The hand slid down, leaving a smear. Then the head tilted, and the sound of teeth scraping glass filled the silence. "There's more than one," Matthew said. His tone carried no fear, only certainty. Aiden's throat tightened. "Back door?" "Locked," Matthew said. "We'll wait them out." "They can't see us in the dark." The shapes moved slowly between the shadows, pale in the low light. Their movements were uneven, not random, but searching. Joshua backed toward the office, eyes darting. "They can smell us," he whispered. "Quiet," Matthew said again. For long minutes, no one spoke. The only sound came from the faint tapping of fingers against glass. Then the noise faded, replaced by the creak of old metal settling. Noah exhaled, long and shaky. "I thought they saw us." "They're getting smarter," Matthew said. "Or hungrier." Joshua gave a low laugh without humor. "You call that strategy? Waiting in the dark until they learn how to open doors?" Aiden turned on him. "You can leave if you want." Joshua's eyes flashed, but he said nothing more. The tension stretched thin but held. Aiden sat again beside Noah, still gripping his weapon. Noah's shoulder brushed his. He whispered, "You keep me calm." "You do the same," Aiden said. Outside, the wind rose, carrying faint sirens and distant shouts. The museum stood like a shell, holding them together with silence. Matthew stayed by the door, watching, steady as stone. The flashlight dimmed until the room fell into near darkness. Noah leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. "If we make it to the mall, what then?" Aiden stared ahead. "We live," he said. "Then we figure out what that means." The words hung between them, simple but heavy. Noah nodded once, as if he understood more than Aiden could say. The night pressed on. Somewhere beyond the walls, the city screamed again. Inside, they stayed still, breathing the same cold air, holding to the small hope that morning might come before the dead learned to break the glass. The museum doors opened to a street washed in gray fog. The air hung thick, the kind that muffled sound and made light seem slow. Aiden stepped into it first, metal bar in hand. Noah followed close, his fingers grazing Aiden's arm when the fog grew heavier. Matthew moved ahead with the gun. Joshua trailed behind them, quiet but restless. They walked through the empty street toward the reflecting pool. The water ahead looked still, covered in mist that shifted with each breath of wind. The fires burning near downtown glowed faint behind the haze, low enough to stain the clouds. Matthew lifted his hand to signal a stop. He pointed to a bridge across the water. Bodies lay along the path, stacked and motionless. "Stay near the edge," he whispered. "If they move, don't look back." Aiden nodded. He met Noah's eyes once before stepping forward. Their faces looked pale in the low light. The sound of their shoes against the pavement felt louder than it should. Each step sent a small ripple through the fog. Halfway across, Aiden heard a sound, faint but sharp. A wet breath. One of the bodies twitched. He froze. The body lifted its head. Then another moved beside it. "Run," Matthew said. The corpses rose in uneven motions, arms reaching, legs dragging. Their clothes hung in strips, skin dark with rot. Matthew fired once, the shot cracking through the night. One fell, then another lifted its head from the pile. Aiden grabbed Noah's wrist and pulled him toward the far side. They ran until the bridge shook beneath them. The air filled with the sound of growls and broken footsteps. Matthew stayed behind, swinging his pipe when the gun clicked empty. "Go!" he shouted. "Keep them safe." Aiden stopped at the edge of the bridge, turning back, but Matthew waved him off. Two of the dead grabbed Matthew by the shoulders. He swung again, but their weight pulled him down. Aiden saw his face disappear under the crowd. The sound of it hollowed the air. Noah dragged Aiden forward, both of them gasping. They stumbled over a barrier and fell hard onto the pavement. Aiden's palm scraped open. He didn't care. Behind them, the screams turned to silence. Joshua caught up, bent double and coughing. "We keep moving," he said. His tone carried no sorrow, only panic. Aiden's voice came rough. "He bought us time." "Then let's not waste it," Joshua said. He pointed to a police cruiser parked crooked at the corner. "We can take that." They approached slowly. The windshield was cracked, lights still faintly flashing. The keyring hung inside. Noah reached for the door, but Joshua shoved him aside. "I'll do it," he said, yanking the handle. The alarm shrieked. The siren cut through the fog like a knife. Aiden's chest went cold. Every sound of the city seemed to stop for one long second. Then came the answer. Groans. Dozens. From every direction. "Turn it off," Noah said, voice breaking. Joshua scrambled inside, fumbling with the switch. The noise kept screaming. Aiden hit the hood with his palm. "Leave it!" he shouted. "We need to move." They ran. The sound of shuffling feet swelled behind them. Figures poured from the alleys, some crawling, some limping fast. The siren drew them like a signal. Aiden led the way through a narrow street lined with broken newspaper stands. His legs burned, lungs raw. Noah stumbled beside him but didn't fall. Joshua followed, panting, muttering curses. They ducked into a side alley behind a row of offices. The space was dark, littered with broken glass and paper. Aiden pressed against the wall, breathing hard. Noah leaned beside him, clutching his chest. Joshua crouched across from them, face wet with sweat. "They'll spread through the whole area now," Joshua said. Aiden didn't look at him. "You shouldn't have touched the car." "It was our best chance," Joshua snapped. "It was noise," Aiden said. "Noise gets you killed." The argument faded under the echo of groans that rolled closer. They could see movement at the far end of the alley, shapes swaying in the fog, closing the gap. Matthew's absence filled the air between them. Aiden felt it like a missing step in his chest. He gripped his metal bar until his fingers hurt. Noah reached for his arm again, steadying him. "We can't stop here," Noah said softly. They slipped through the back of an office door that hung loose on its hinges. Inside, the space was dark, desks overturned, papers scattered. Aiden moved first, scanning the hall. The emergency lights pulsed faintly red. They found a stairwell leading down to a service exit. A faint draft came from below. "This way," Aiden said. As they descended, the building shook under the weight of something above. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Aiden's grip tightened. They moved faster. The lower floor opened to a garage filled with wrecked cars. The air reeked of oil and metal. Joshua hurried to a van, trying the doors again. Locked. Noah stayed close to Aiden. A muffled sound came from the ramp behind them. More steps. Then the faint scrape of bone against concrete. Aiden motioned for silence. He looked at Noah, who nodded. Together they moved toward the far exit sign. Joshua followed, still muttering about keys and engines. They reached the door that led back to the street. Aiden pushed it open. Cold air hit their faces. The night stretched empty ahead, fog curling around lampposts. The city looked endless and hollow. They stepped out one by one. Aiden went last. He turned back for a moment, looking into the dark of the garage. He thought he saw movement there, faint and human-shaped, but didn't wait to know for sure. The door closed behind them with a click. They stood in the street under a single working light. Noah wiped his face with his sleeve, leaving streaks of dirt across his cheek. Aiden reached up, thumb brushing it away. Their eyes met. Nothing needed to be said. Joshua broke the quiet. "We find another car or we die walking," he said. Aiden stared at him for a long moment, then turned to Noah. "We'll walk," he said. They started forward again, three shadows moving through fog. The city around them moaned in the distance, carried by wind. Every sound seemed alive, and none of it sounded human. The bridge behind them burned with silence. Matthew's voice still rang faint in Aiden's memory. Keep them safe. He would. even if the world fell apart under his feet. The city grew darker as they moved south. Power lines hung loose above them, swinging in the wind. The fog thinned enough for Aiden to see the broken windows along the buildings, and the faint glimmer of water ahead where the streets sank toward the metro entrance. The air smelled of copper and smoke. They followed the steps down into the station. Every movement echoed through the tunnel. The walls were streaked with dried stains, and posters peeled from the tiles. Matthew's name lingered on Aiden's thoughts, each step pulling it deeper until it sat heavy behind his ribs. He felt Noah's shoulder brush his arm every few steps, quiet reassurance without words. At the bottom of the stairs, the air grew damp. The light still worked in short bursts, flickering down the length of the platform. Abandoned bags lined the benches. A newspaper drifted across the floor, brushing against Joshua's shoe. He kicked it aside and muttered, "They all went underground first." "Now we get to see what's left," Aiden kept his voice low. "Stay quiet. If they're down here, sound will bring them." Joshua gave a half laugh that carried too far. "They're everywhere." Hiding won't change that. Noah turned his flashlight toward the far end of the platform. The beam landed on a train sitting still on the tracks, its doors half open. The sound of dripping water echoed inside. Aiden looked at it, and then at the tunnel stretching past. "We can use the track to reach the next station," he said. "If we keep low, we stay unseen." Joshua shook his head. "You think walking through that is safer than finding another exit?" "Up there is open ground," Aiden said. "They'll spot us. Down here we can move without being seen." Joshua didn't answer. He rubbed his face with both hands, then started toward the edge of the platform. The others followed. The drop to the rails was short, but the metal groaned under their weight. The tunnel air felt colder. Noah aimed the flashlight ahead, catching glimpses of graffiti and streaks of old mud. They walked single file, boots splashing through shallow puddles. Aiden listened for anything beyond their steps. The silence pressed close, broken only by the hum of faint current in the overhead cables. Then a sound reached them, a shuffle ahead, too soft to be an echo. He froze, raising his hand. The beam of the flashlight trembled across the wall, finding a shadow that moved when they didn't. A figure stood about 20 feet ahead, swaying. Its mouth hung open, arms limp. Aiden's chest tightened. "Back," he whispered. The figure twitched and turned its head toward them. The light caught its face, half gone, jawbone gleaming wet. It started forward, slow at first, then faster. They moved back toward the platform. 2 more figures appeared behind the first, crawling from between the cars of the train. Their movement scraped against the metal, sharp and erratic. Noah slipped, his hand catching Aiden's sleeve. Aiden pulled him upright and shoved him toward the ladder that led up to the walkway. Joshua climbed first, panic plain in his voice. "Move! Move! Move!" Aiden helped Noah up, then followed. The figures reached the spot where they had stood seconds before. One slammed into the wall, arms flailing. The sound filled the tunnel. They ran down the narrow walkway beside the tracks. The tunnel curved ahead into darkness. Joshua's pace quickened. He ignored Matthew's earlier words about staying together. He kept moving faster, breath ragged. "Slow down," Aiden said. Joshua didn't respond. His light bobbed ahead until he reached a narrow maintenance door and forced it open. "This way," he yelled, voice echoing. The noise drew more sounds from the dark. Groans rose from both sides of the tunnel. Aiden could see shapes moving behind the train now, climbing onto the walkway. They squeezed through the door into a small service passage. The walls pressed tight, lined with pipes that hissed faintly. The floor tilted downward toward another track. The smell of rot filled the air. Joshua led, his pace frantic. "There's a set of stairs ahead," he said. "We can reach the surface." Aiden followed, guiding Noah behind him. The narrow space amplified every sound. The groans came closer, louder. They reached the stairs, a metal set that descended into shadow. Joshua stepped onto the first few, then stopped. The space below wasn't empty. Dozens of bodies moved there, huddled together in the half-dark. Their heads turned toward the sound of his feet. Joshua froze, then stumbled backward. "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, no." Aiden reached for him, but Joshua shoved him away, trying to climb higher. The motion drew the attention of the swarm below. They moved all at once, crawling up the steps with jerks of arms and legs that didn't bend right. "Run!" Aiden shouted. Joshua tried to turn, but his foot slipped on the edge of the stair. His body fell backward into the group below. The sound that followed filled the passage with wet chaos. Noah clamped his hands over his ears. Aiden grabbed his arm, pulling him away from the rail. They ran back up the passage, ignoring the pain in their legs. The flashlight beam jumped across the walls. Behind them, Joshua's screams broke into silence. They reached the door and pushed through it. The tunnel beyond shook with noise. Aiden slammed the door closed and shoved a pipe through the handles. The metal vibrated as something hit from the other side. They kept running, the light swinging wild ahead. The air grew thinner until they reached another ladder. A faint glow showed through the grating above. Aiden climbed first, shoulders burning. When he reached the top, he pushed the grate aside and pulled himself onto the street. The night air hit him hard, cool and sharp. Noah climbed after him, face streaked with sweat. They both lay there for a moment, gasping. The city stretched around them, quiet again. Somewhere behind them, the tunnel noises faded into nothing. Aiden rolled onto his side and looked at Noah. Their eyes met, full of what neither wanted to say. The loss weighed on them, but under it a small pulse of relief still lived. They had made it through another night, though the world around them didn't feel like one worth saving. Noah sat up and pressed his hand to Aiden's chest, feeling the rough rhythm under his palm. "You're alive," he said. Aiden nodded, unable to answer. He covered Noah's hand with his own. For a brief moment, the dead world seemed to pause around them. The noise, the fear, all of it fell away. Only breath and skin remained, warm and fragile in the dark. A thin light touched the edges of the sky. The fog lifted, revealing the broken outline of the Capitol dome through smoke. Aiden and Noah sat on the curb near an overturned bus. The pavement still shimmered with moisture, cold through their torn clothes. The city was quiet. Only the faint rattle of debris moved with the wind. They had reached a street lined with burned cars and fallen power lines. No helicopters circled now, no voices on loudspeakers. The air hung still enough for them to hear each other breathe. Aiden kept his hand over Noah's, feeling the pulse that reminded him they were not gone yet. He looked at the ruins ahead, where the mall once stretched green and wide. The ground was scorched, the reflecting pool a smear of ash and water. The silence carried something fragile, almost peaceful. Noah leaned against him, voice low. "It's morning." Aiden nodded. "We made it through the night." Neither smiled. Survival no longer felt like victory. It felt like a question neither could answer. He looked at the street that led toward the river. The light grew stronger, turning the smoke pale. "Do you think anyone else is alive?" Noah asked. "Maybe," Aiden said, "if they stayed quiet." If they kept moving, he remembered Matthew's last words. Keep them safe. Each death pressed into him like a weight he could not set down. Connor, who tried to help. Matthew, who fought to the end. Joshua, whose fear destroyed him. Their faces drifted through the fog that memory left behind. Noah rested his head on Aiden's shoulder. The warmth from him steadied Aiden's thoughts. "He'd be proud of you," Noah said. "Matthew?" "All of them." Aiden stayed silent. Pride felt distant, something that belonged to a world that no longer existed. What mattered now was the living hand in his. A distant thump broke the quiet. They both turned. Across the street, a shape moved between the cars. It stumbled once, then steadied itself. Another followed. The dead had not stopped moving. Aiden stood. "We need to go." Noah rose beside him, clutching the flashlight even though its beam was dead. "Where?" "South. Toward the river. Maybe the bridges still hold." They began to walk. Each step sounded loud in the empty street. The shapes behind them didn't hurry but followed. The movement of the living still called to them. Aiden led the way through a row of storefronts, windows blown out, shelves turned over. A light breeze passed through and carried the faint smell of coffee from the Starbucks they had left hours earlier. He stopped for a moment, looking through the doorway. The chairs still lay against the counter where Matthew had wedged them. A memory of Connor's voice filled his head, bright and quick. He forced himself forward. Noah caught his sleeve. "Hey." Aiden turned. "We're still here," Noah said. His tone stayed even, but there was something tender under it. Aiden nodded. "Yeah, we are." They kept moving. The streets widened as they reached the open grounds near the mall. The sun climbed higher, casting long streaks across the pavement. The city looked raw in the light, stripped of its power and noise. Only the birds had returned, circling high above. When they reached the edge of the reflecting pool, they stopped. The water was blackened but still. Across it, the Capitol steps were littered with abandoned gear. A helicopter rested tilted on its side, blades broken. The quiet pressed heavy around them. Noah stepped close to the water's edge. "They tried to save people here," he said. "It didn't work." Aiden joined him. Their reflections wavered in the surface, faint and uncertain. He watched the light shift across Noah's face and thought about everything the night had taken from them, everything it had left. Noah turned toward him. "You think it ever goes back?" Aiden met his eyes. "No, I think it becomes something else." The honesty of it hung between them. Noah's mouth trembled and he gave a small nod. "Then we become something else too." Aiden reached for him. The contact was simple but felt like truth. Noah's fingers intertwined with his, steady and warm. Around them, the wind moved through the broken trees, carrying the sound of far-off sirens fading into the distance. They stood there for a long time, watching the morning rise over what was left of the Capitol. The light painted the ruined buildings gold. The world looked wounded but not gone. Aiden felt the same inside himself. Behind them, the sound of footsteps returned. The dead were near again, slower now, drawn by instinct. Aiden didn't flinch. He turned to Noah and said, "We move when they get close. We keep moving until there's nowhere left to go." Noah smiled for the first time since the night began. "With you?" "Always," Aiden said. They started walking again, side by side through the wreckage. The wind carried the scent of smoke and salt. The city stretched open ahead, stripped of its shape but filled with light. The dead still followed, but they no longer frightened him. The living did not stop. The living carried memory, loss, and something that refused to end. Aiden glanced at Noah. The sun caught the freckles on his cheeks, turning them into tiny sparks against pale skin. He would remember that color when night came again. They passed the last line of burned cars and stepped onto the bridge. The river below moved slow and silent, its surface flashing with sunlight. The sound of water filled the air. It felt clean. Aiden breathed deep. His grip tightened around Noah's hand. The bridge stretched ahead, leading into the brightness of the rising day. They didn't look back. The dead kept moving behind them, but so did they, and as long as they walked, the world still lived.